Next on the news, a saint in the spotlight. The curtain opens up on a brand new musical all about the life and times of Mother Cabrini. Pope Francis walking with the poor in the town of Assisi to hear firsthand from the less fortunate. And
it's crazy that, to be honest, we're having this discussion in 2021 that they don't think religion, any religion, is important at an airport.
Billions of dollars spent to renovate LaGuardia Airport, but an airport chapel is not in the plans. Why developers nixed the idea and what the chaplain there is doing about it. Plus, a teacher's lessons 40 years later, a heartfelt reunion as former students reach out in a time of need. I'm Christine Persichetti. A special edition of Currents News starts right now. Mother Cabrini, as you've probably never imagined her, singing and dancing live on stage. And the stage is set this weekend on a brand new musical right here in the Diocese of Brooklyn that stars a saint. Happening Woman is all about the life and times of Mother Cabrini. Currents News' Jessica Easthope got a sneak peek at Our Lady of Mercy Church in Forest Hills.
Hey everybody, places for Act 1.
It's true, Broadway is back. And sure, these lights aren't as bright as Times Square's, but Mother Cabrini shines in Happening Woman.
From the red, white, and green to the red, white, and blue.
The musical, which debuts at Our Lady of Mercy Church in Forest Hills this weekend, was written by parishioner Anna Marie Prono and is based on the life and legacy of St. Francis Xavier Cabrini, the patron saint of immigrants.
Is she okay?
Despite having founded the Missionary Sisters of the Sacred Heart of Jesus and starting more than 100 hospitals and schools, Mother Cabrini was sickly all her life. Prono says she can relate.
She just did so much. She never stopped. I have MS. I kind of felt like I could identify with her a little bit.
The play jumps back and forth between the late 1800s and present day.
Thanks, Mom.
Part of Cabrini's story is told through the eyes of 13-year-old Kathy, a Catholic school student with multiple sclerosis, fighting to get Mother Cabrini a statue after the saint was snubbed during the She Built NYC controversy in 2019.
These women both overcame obstacles, and that's what our message is, that yes, you can do it.
As New York City dealt with the height of the pandemic, inspiration flowed for Prono and composer Bob Kaufman.
Almost Sacred Heart of Jesus.
Now their faith is taking center stage.
I wanted to give Catholics something that they could feel good about. The songs are very upbeat, they are unapologetically spiritual.
And the audience still has a lot to learn from Mother Cabrini.
When you consider what she did in her life, when all the odds were against her, with God all things are possible.
People will get to see the real Mother Cabrini when the curtain rises. In Forest Hills, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Tickets are already sold out at Our Lady of Mercy Church, but the producers have started a GoFundMe page to bring the play to more churches in the diocese. Supporters can search for Happening Woman at GoFundMe.com. Caring for the poor was something very important to Mother Cabrini, and this Sunday is World Day of the Poor. Ahead of it, Pope Francis visited Assisi, the birthplace of St. Francis, the patron saint of the poor, where he held an informal event to listen to the stories of those less fortunate. Before entering the basilica known by the Franciscans as the Portiuncula, Pope Francis was given a pilgrim's cloak and walking stick. He didn't choose this place arbitrarily. The Portiuncula is where St. Francis of Assisi found his vocation and gave up his wealth to live in poverty. He also started the Franciscan movement. There, the Pope listened to some moving stories. This man from Spain, left homeless and unemployed during the pandemic, got emotional when talking about how he asked a priest for help.
El virrey me dijo, te voy a ayudar.
One after another, they told their stories through tears. The Pope was moved by the testimonies and listened attentively.
Grazie ai poveri che aprono il cuore per darci la loro ricchezza e guarire il nostro cuore ferito. Grazie per questo coraggio.
The Holy Father also thanked those who help people in need, but he urged more people to join the cause.
È tempo che si aprano gli occhi per vedere lo stato di disuguaglianza in cui tante famiglie vivono. È tempo di rimboccarsi le maniche per restituire dignità, creando posti di lavoro. È tempo che si torni a scandalizzarsi davanti alla realtà dei bambini affamati, ridotti in schiavitù, sballottati dalle acque in preda del naufragio, vittime innocenti di ogni sorta di violenza.
The Pope listed a number of situations of poverty that affect all kinds of people.
È tempo che cessino le violenze sulle donne e queste siano rispettate e non trattate come merce di scambio. È tempo che si spezzi il cerchio dell'indifferenza per ritornare a scoprire la bellezza dell'incontro e del dialogo. È tempo di incontrarsi. Se l'umanità, se noi uomini e donne non impariamo a incontrarsi, andiamo verso una fine molto triste.
On Sunday, Pope Francis will celebrate Mass in St. Peter's Basilica with some 2,000 poor people in attendance. Afterwards, the Vatican will provide lunch for everyone. The COP26 summit coming to a close Friday, and the Holy See is giving its thoughts on the conference on climate change. The Vatican commends the states on their pledges to fight global warming, but warns there is still more to be done. The Holy See delegation stresses that time is of the essence and hopes the final conclusions from the conference will truly respond to the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. New York City is starting to see bigger crowds as international travelers start booking flights to the U.S. The COVID travel restrictions were lifted on Monday, allowing air travel from a long list of countries including China, India, South Africa, and the U.K. Flyers will need to be both vaccinated and show a negative COVID test within 3 days of their departure. And speaking of travel, there's some turbulence at the new and improved LaGuardia Airport. The terminals there are undergoing a multi-billion-dollar renovation, which includes restaurants, shops, and fountains. So why have plans for a chapel been canceled? In an exclusive report, Jessica Easthope spoke with the chaplain of both JFK and LaGuardia to get some answers.
We make this prayer through Jesus Christ.
Beyond the doors of this quiet chapel at John F. Kennedy International is the flurry and commotion of the 5th busiest airport in the country. 61 million people travel through here a year. Father Chris Piasta, the airport chaplain, says many of them, whether it be in their travels or in life, are lost and looking for direction.
They're looking for signs. They're looking for something. That is exactly the common denominator.
But if one of those passengers in need flew into LaGuardia Airport instead, those signs are nowhere to be found.
I have to take upon myself the chapel, put it on my shoulders, and walk with it throughout the airport. But the chapel is a significant and important focal point.
When we pray,
For a long time, Father Piasta was saying Mass in an unused conference room there. But his last service was years ago. And since, he's been asking for an official chapel that all faiths can use. But his plea has fallen on deaf ears. Father Piasta was told by LaGuardia Gateway Partners, the group in charge of the hub's $4 billion redevelopment, a chapel would not exist in the newly renovated airport.
Welcome to the all-new Terminal B at LaGuardia Airport.
But instead, there would be a meditation room. The only problem? No religious symbols or services allowed. But Father Piasta refuses to be grounded. He's bringing his pleas to the top, the CEO of Delta Airlines. It's not just for Catholics. It's for all believers.
We would speak with one voice, but several individuals who know how much of a change does it make in the life of an airport.
Both airports fall within the bounds of the Diocese of Brooklyn. Vincent Levien, Director of External Affairs for DeSales Media Group, the communications and technology arm of the diocese, also reached out about the chapel.
It's an attack on religion. It's crazy that, to be honest, we're having this discussion in 2021 that they don't think religion, any religion, is important at an airport.
Despite the obstacles, Levien spoke with the directors of government affairs from Delta and the Port Authority and says he's optimistic about an outcome. In the meantime, Father Piasta says LaGuardia's travelers and airport workers are suffering. Everyone from victims of natural disasters to refugees stranded for weeks. They need faith, and right now, they're all doing without.
You go to those famous airports all over the world. They have pools, they have golf courses. And I think that the spiritual level is just as important as anything else.
That was Jessica Easthope reporting. Father Piasta and DeSales Media Group are both in talks with the Port Authority as well as Delta and American Airlines to make their case. Also in the news, Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio has released a detailed report on the Child Victims Act. 1,262 lawsuits were filed against the diocese. 42% of the cases filed involved clergy of the diocese. The rest involved lay people, clergy, and religious outside of the diocese, and unnamed priests. New York's Child Victims Act temporarily lifted the statute of limitations on civil cases so alleged victims of sexual abuse could seek compensation. Many more details, along with several charts, can be found in the Bishop's Into the Deep column in the November 13th edition of The Tablet. You can also read it online at thetablet.org. Meanwhile, the diocese has created a new department to combat and prevent sexual abuse within the church, and the Vice Chancellor, Jasmine Salazar, will head it. It's called the Office of Protection of Children and Young People. It will enhance the strong programs already in place, such as the telephone hotline Bishop DiMarzio started nearly 2 decades ago, and the diocese's Victim Assistance Ministry. The new office will also track and investigate all allegations of misconduct reported in the diocese. There's a lot more news headed your way. With National Vocations Awareness Week coming to a close, Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio joins us to talk about the present state of clergy in the diocese. Plus, it's been 2 months since Tropical Storm Ida battered the city. We check in with a Brooklyn parishioner still piecing her life back together. And the lessons of a good teacher can never be erased. How some former Catholic school students are making that clear. It's been weeks since Tropical Storm Ida tore through New York City, leaving death and destruction in its wake. For many, it's been a struggle to start over. They lost their homes, but not their faith. Current News' Jessica Easthope is in Woodside, checking back in with a storm survivor.
All of the water came through there into here.
The floors and walls are dry. It's been more than 2 months, but Leticia Orta can still feel the water rising.
The water was up to here.
This basement apartment, her home for 12 years, was destroyed in Tropical Storm Ida, along with nearly everything in it.
Seeing all my things throwing away and that couldn't keep anything from there.
See, the water came up to here.
We first brought you Leticia's story right after the storm when she was forced to start over. But she looks back and knows she was one of the lucky ones.
The most important thing is that I'm alive and I have a job. And I have my family.
11 Queens residents died in basement apartments during the storm. It's estimated there are 200,000 basement apartments in New York City, many of them illegal. Leticia is now staying in a 1-room basement apartment with her son. It's half the size of her old place, but she can't afford anything else. She has close to $50,000 in property loss and only received $6,000 from FEMA. And rents in her area are skyrocketing.
I can't do this. I mean, I'm not going to be working just to pay rent.
Catholic Charities Brooklyn and Queens gave Leticia a table set, and her parish, St. Mary's Winfield, also offered help. She says the support alone of her pastor and fellow parishioners is more than enough. It's keeping her faith strong at a time when she needs it most.
My faith is on God, and even if it hurts, I know that I'm going to be okay.
Leticia plans to stay put for now until she saves enough money to replace her things, remaining grateful for the things she can't replace. In Woodside, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Food banks are feeling the effects of supply chain issues and surging food prices. The higher costs and limited inventory mean families get smaller servings. And on the most popular holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas, the banks worry they won't have enough stuffing and cranberry sauce to go around. If you're mailing gifts this year for Christmas, the post office is urging you to send them as soon as possible because of COVID delays. To make the December 25th deadline, you should have your ground shipping packages out by December 15th. First class mail should be out by December 17th and priority mail by December 18th. One priority for bishops is to ordain new priests. With fewer young men entering seminaries than decades past, Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio says dioceses need to get creative to prevent priest shortages. The bishop joins Ed Wilkinson now to talk about it in this week's Into the Deep. Ed.
Thank you, Christine. We're with Bishop DiMarzio today. Bishop, nice to see you again. We've been doing a series of retrospectives with you, and today I want to talk about the clergy. You know, there's been a clergy shortage and a crisis across the country. We seem to have done pretty well here. How have you assessed the last 18 years?
Well, you have to make it a priority. Vocations today have to be recruited. You just can't wait for people to knock on the door as we did in the past and say, well, I'm not sure about you, this one, that one. Need to recruit. We also need to screen, but it's an active process, and the bishop needs to be involved. People today, when they're thinking of vocation, they also have a lot of selection freedom that they didn't have in the past. So they look for a diocese where they think the bishop is of the mind that they are, and that's where they want to go. So you really have to be available to that.
Yeah. You've made pretty good use also of religious orders, right? How have you used them?
Well, religious orders, and then many times they're willing to take parishes. Some of them are new movements. They're not actually religious orders, but they're movements, and they're willing to take parishes. So that's helped us. We've had to consolidate parishes also, 2 churches, usually 1 parish. So that's one way of dealing with the shortage.
Yeah, and we're getting a lot of clergy also from international places. You know, when you know, we sometimes think that there's a shortage of, say, black priests, but we have a pretty good number of black priests.
We probably have the most black priests of any diocese in the country, as well as black Catholics between the American-born, the Haitians, the West Indians. It's a unique situation.
Yeah. How do you manage to get them in? Do you have to go out and recruit them, or they come to you?
Well, usually they come, where people want to study, especially the Indians or other countries, they want to come to study. So we're able to give them residence, and they help in the parish, and they continue their studies at one of the schools. St. John's University is very good at giving scholarships to foreign clergy. So it's an attraction here to the diocese. So it does help us a lot.
Yeah. One of the things that you did in cooperation with the Archdiocese and Rockville Center was to consolidate the seminary training. How has that affected recruiting and vocations here?
Well, it has helped us to be able to continue to have our own seminary, because the problem is that to have a seminary, you have to have priests on the faculty. You also have some lay faculty, but you need priests that are formators, that can do the spiritual direction. No one diocese today, but the 3 dioceses, and these are some of the largest dioceses in the country, we wouldn't have been able to do it if it was only one diocese having to staff, especially the priest staff. So by consolidating, we were able to join forces. So now we have adequate staffing for a seminary that serves 3 dioceses and others too, and religious orders. So we have a critical mass, you would say, that is working.
Yeah. What do you think the future is? I mean, do you think we'll ever get back to the time when there were so many priests in the diocese back in the 1950s, those kinds of
Probably not. I mean, it was a kind of a unique period in history. Probably we won't have as many priests. And we don't need as many, because today we recognize that the laity have responsibility for the life of the church, and they're taking the responsibility. So many things that priests did in the past, lay people can do, even do better sometimes than priests could do, and so we have to balance that.
And we also have the ministry now of deacons, permanent deacons. How have they been helpful in the parishes?
Well, permanent deacons have been a great asset to this diocese. So we have active deacons, over 140, 50, I think, 150. And they help in the parishes. Sometimes they're two in a parish, 3 sometimes, but they are able to give good service of the word. They can preach. They can baptize, marry couples. They work usually as team with their wives in different areas. So it's been a great asset to the diocese.
Good. Bishop, thanks so much. I know it has been a priority for you, and thanks for sharing your ideas on the clergy this week.
You're welcome.
Christine, we're going to go back to you now.
Thanks, Ed and Bishop DiMarzio. Now to a story you can only catch in the tablet newspaper. The nation's largest Black Catholic fraternal organization is looking for new members, and their recruitment drive is already in high gear here in the diocese. The Knights of St. Peter Claver are currently in the process of securing charters for 2 new councils in Brooklyn and Queens, adding to the 2 already existing councils in the diocese. Altogether, the Knights have 300 councils and courts in parishes across the U.S. November is Black Catholic History Month, so now is a great time to join the ranks. If you'd like to join the Knights, just head on over to kofpc.org and click Join, or visit your local court and council for more information. It's the lesson of a lifetime. Still to come on Currents News, how alumni of Sacred Heart are giving back to their teacher some 40 years after they left her classroom. The best teachers impart lessons that stay with us our whole lives. Some former students of Sacred Heart Catholic Academy making that clear by lending a hand to a teacher who did so much for them. Jessica Easthope has their story from Bayside.
She used to do best row. Best row. Yes, best row.
Janine Rana and Maria Obial are back in 4th grade at Sacred Heart Catholic Academy of Bayside with their teacher, Miss Collardi.
First year story.
They're laughing, listening, and learning, just like they did all those years ago.
Brian Agid, Terrence McBreen.
It's been 43 years, but the girls still can't call Miss Collardi by her first name.
She always keeps saying, "You should call me Regina." I say, "I can't, but you're Miss Collardi."
Yeah, 2 times 2.
And Regina has the same problem.
These children, I'm going to keep calling them children because that's what they were to me.
Recently, life has come full circle. The girls needed Regina's love and support as chatty kids trying to learn their times tables. But now Regina needs theirs.
We were raised to do what Jesus taught us, and we still do. It exemplifies the true value of a Catholic education.
Through a port.
Regina has stage 4 kidney disease. When the girls found out, Miss Collardi's 4th grade class got to work, raising money to send her a gift card for meals.
Blood clot in my lung.
But more than that, they gave Regina an inside look at the impact she made on them.
The emails and the messages, just that we were thinking about her.
You don't realize the power you do have over children.
He answered the question.
Regina's now waiting for a kidney transplant.
God has made this plan. He knew that I needed their support, and I was happy to have given it to them when they needed it.
The girls by her side all the way.
It doesn't matter when or why, we'll be there in a heartbeat.
It's that imprint of
showing that the influence of a good teacher can never be erased.
I know.
How many times?
In Bayside, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
And we have an update since Jessica spoke with Regina. She's still waiting for a kidney donor. However, she's on dialysis and she says it's doing wonders for her. In fact, she's no longer considered an emergency case. Of course, we wish her all the best. And that is this special edition of Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.